So today I was hanging out with my boy Greg, and Greg asked me at one point in the conversation, he's like, Eric, do you really believe, now tell me the truth, Eric, do you really believe that anybody can learn to sing? And I say, barring some kind of like injury or impairment, yes. And he's like, I mean, he's gonna say that. And I'm like, Greg, do you believe that I can sing? And he says, yes, I think you have one of the best voices. And I'm like, well then you believe that anyone can learn to sing. And he's like, but Eric, you have talent.
And when I see your face, I know that there ain't nothing strong enough to keep me away from you. There could be a wall of fire 10 feet higher, I would just walk on through. And she's on my mind, like all the time. Happy birthday, all over there. Happy birthday to you. Oh, I love you.
It's funny to me because he's assuming that I could always sing from like the time I was a little kid. And so I started telling him my story. And I was like, do you realize that when I first started singing, everybody told me to quit? You know, my parents, my family, my friends. And I have a very loving family, but my parents, they were just, and my brothers, they were just being real. At the time, it just wasn't very good. And they would let me know, like, Eric, this is not for you. I mean, my homeroom teacher in high school, when I decided I was going to try to pursue music in college, Miss Curley, she told me, Eric, this is the biggest mistake of your life if you pursue music. That's what she told me. And she loved me, but she thought she was telling me the truth. You know, my dad would tell me, you know, you don't have it. Like, you don't have this ability. What makes you think you can do this? And he wasn't trying to hate on me. He was just like, Eric, come on, you got great grades. You know, you're testing like off the charts on these standardized tests. You know, why are you music? This is not where your natural ability lies. But for me, I had a passion for it, and I felt that I could figure it out. I felt like there was something I was missing. I could figure it out. A lot of people don't know this, but you know, around the time I was 14, I decided that I really wanted to sing. I got pretty serious about it. I was singing all my spare time, on lunch breaks and in PE, and anytime we had a substitute, I'd be singing with my friends, and we'd be singing songs. I had like a little singing group in high school. Shout out to Daryl and Aubrey. And we would do our thing. And I realized, like, I really want to do this. When I was in junior high school, I auditioned for my choir, and I got laughed at. The teacher, you might have seen this in another video, but the choir director laughed at me so hard that she had tears coming out of her eyes, and she had to excuse herself, and then she had to apologize to me afterward, because that's how hilarious she thought it was. And in 9th grade, I was like, okay, I'm gonna do this again. You know, I auditioned for my high school choir because I have a very strong will, I believe I could do anything kind of attitude. And I got into my high school choir. I got in. And we had our first rehearsal, and the next day I was put out because I had no clue as to what it meant to learn parts at that time. I didn't understand basic musical concepts like octaves and stuff. I was just throwing my voice around any kind of way. I had no prior training or experience. I just didn't understand things that to them were basic fundamental aspects of music and singing. I just didn't know them. I was just ignorant in the truest sense of the word. I just didn't know. And it's not that I didn't have the ability. If somebody would break it down to me, you know, I could have gotten it, but they were just like, you just don't have it. And a lot of times when people listen to someone sing, they don't listen to why the person sounds the way they do. They just hear, oh, you sound good or you sound bad. But they don't listen to why. There's always a reason. If someone sounds bad, why? Is it because they're flat? If they're flat, why are they flat? It's because there's excessive muscle tension. Are they not breathing right? Do they need to let their voice transition into a mix or head voice? You know why? If they're sharp, why? Are they offbeat? And if so, that can be corrected. You know, do they sound whiny and nasal? If so, that can be corrected. But we're just so quick to dismiss, you know, like, oh, you don't sound good. Psh. Is the person hoarse? Maybe they have vocal damage. You just sound bad. I see it every day. There's so many singers that I'll work with and transform into like just vocal monsters. And people are always like, Eric, man, I never thought they'd be able to sing like this. And I'm like, for me, it was obvious. I could hear that it was just this one thing or that one thing holding them back. When I listen to singers sing now, I don't even listen in terms of, oh, you sound good or you sound bad. I listen in terms of, why is your voice not as free as it could be? And it's my job to help guide you to those blocks and unblock those blocks. That's redundant, but you know what I mean. And so what happened for me was, I feel like God instilled this in me. And if you're not a Christian or whatever, if you don't believe in a God, the universe, whatever, this was instilled in me somehow, this belief that there had to be a way. It was illogical. Even I knew this, that I knew I didn't sound great. I didn't have any control over my voice. But I knew that somehow I could figure it out. The turning point in my life was when I began encountering people who, instead of dismissing me as being talentless, started seeing and focusing instead on the potential and on reasons as to why I wasn't realizing my full potential. And at the end of my senior year, I had full tuition and academic scholarships to pretty much anywhere I wanted to go. I didn't have to pay for anywhere I wanted to go to school. And even places I didn't apply to were offering me scholarships. It was kind of weird. And so the idea of going to school for to become a doctor or an architect or anything, it just bored me to tears. It wasn't my passion, you know, and I knew I had to do music. And so I went to my parents and I was like, you know what, Mom and Dad, I'm going to Daryl's house. And Daryl was like my best friend in high school. And so I chickened out. I couldn't tell him that I was going to audition for the music department. And so I told him I was going to my friend Daryl's house. And I did. I went to Daryl's house and I practiced my songs a few times and I changed clothes. And then I went to Xavier University's music department. I was the last person to audition for that auditioning period. I was the last person. In fact, when I went, all the staff were chilling in like the little lobby area because it was the very last audition. It was almost the end of the day. And I guess they figured nobody else was coming. And so I was the last person. And we all went up the steps. And I sang When I Fall in Love. You know, when I fall in love, it will be forever. But it was a lot more strainy and cracky. And I actually cracked a lot. And I was mortified, but I kept going. I was like, Eric, you're here now. You know, part of me wanted to run. I'm just cracking and straining and struggling. And and when I'm done, you know, is when I'll fall in love with you. Whatever it ends. I'm looking at their faces. Nobody's laughing. They just look focused, like really focused. And I'm like, okay, at least they're not laughing, I guess. And nobody's making me, nobody's chasing me out with pitchforks and stuff, and with torches, but I watch too many movies, I guess. Anyway, yeah, so then they were like, can you sing something else? And they were like, can you sing Amazing Grace? And I was like, oh, okay, you know, and I figured it's a good sign, you know, they still want me to sing, and so I sang Amazing Grace, and when I was done, I was offered admittance into the music department. And I can tell you that it was tough. My freshman and sophomore years at Xavier University, I wanted to quit every single day because I was I was very much so out of my league. I was in a department with people who had performed with Babyface and Layla Hathaway, and who had sung for the Pope, and who had trained in Germany, and who had, you know, people who had experience. And I had to take remedial music theory classes. I just was really behind. I was not on the level of most of my peers there. I don't even know if you could really have called them peers at the time. I wasn't even close to their level. I was laughed at in classes where I had to sing, because they'd be like, nah, and I'd be like, nah, you know, and I was really struggling, you know, really. But the best part for me was that my voice teacher there, in the beginning, he told me a couple things that helped. After being damn near laughed out of concert choir one day, in my one-on-one lesson with him, he was like, you're gonna have to develop a thicker skin, number one. And he was like, you know, this is the music industry. If you're gonna break down every time somebody says you don't have it, then you might as well quit right now. And he was so right. And then he was like, you could be great. You could really be great. Your instrument is fantastic. And it was the first time in my entire life that someone had spoken that out loud. The possibility that I could actually be great. And to hear somebody say it, it really caused a new gear to turn inside, that I wasn't insane and completely on my own in my belief that I actually had something. And the funniest thing is, he was like, you're not great now, but you could be if you work. And he was like, Eric, you're smart. And smart people do well in music. There's no such thing as a dumb musician, is what he would always say. Or no such thing as a dumb, good musician. And I found that to be true as well in my own life. And I worked my ass off. And by the time I graduated, I was president of the concert choir. I was section leader of the bass baritone section. I sung solos and everything. I had performed for everybody. I had sung background and opened up for artists like Nelly. I had performed all over the damn place. I had sung for the Army National United Negro College Fund convention that they had in New Orleans. I've done all kind of crazy stuff. And please understand, this is not me bragging. It's not me saying that I'm the best. It's me saying that hard work makes the difference. I was going up against people who had always been told, you're awesome, you're great, you're so naturally gifted, you have a talent, you have a gift. And they became complacent. I just worked harder than them. I would tell anybody, music is so subjective. Who's better than somebody else is a matter of opinion. Some people think that, you know, Mariah Carey is fantastic. Some people think she's awful. Some people think that, you know, Freddie Mercury is fantastic. Some people think he's awful. Whatever. It's a matter of opinion. But one thing that I could honestly say, when I was in school, nobody outworked me. I worked harder than anybody I knew. And I can say that pretty boldly. And I wanted it really badly. And I just worked. I worked really hard. It makes a difference. And the thing is, now I'm sharing with you my story at ericarceneaux.com, so you can check it out for yourself and read details. I think you'll find it inspiring. If you're having any doubts about whether or not singing is for you, read my story. Check it out. When I first wrote it, I wrote it just for me, but to my surprise, people who came upon it would write me these big, long, heartfelt letters about how much it spoke to them personally. And I was amazed. So now I'm telling you, you know, read it. And I'm also doing this video at the insistence of my boy Greg. He was telling me, Eric, you gotta tell people about this. You gotta tell people, because I think a lot of people assume that it's just easy for you, that you just somehow magically know this stuff, that you just somehow magically just could sing or whatever, and it's just not true. And you could do it. And the great thing is too, and it's not like a cheesy selling point here, but the fact is, a lot of the stuff that I went through, you don't have to go through, because I can help you get right to the heart of the stuff that really works. And so I can spare you a lot of the potholes that I had to run over. There's also a link in the info box if you want to get like my home study warm-ups, or if you want to read. There's plenty of free stuff too. I know it's financially difficult times these days in this country, and so if you gotta look at something for free, there's plenty of free stuff at aapproach.com too, free articles and free videos. So check them out, and they really work. So I don't put out anything that doesn't work. So it's not like a teaser. It's something that you can actually use. So check that out too. And I guess that's it. So read the story, and check out aapproach.com as well. And I'm saying and like a lot in this video, and that lets me know that I'm tired and I need to go to sleep. And so I'm gonna do that. And until next time, peace.